It's been 2 weeks since the release of Ridley Scott's Alien Covenant, the prequel to the original Alien movie from 1979, and sequel to 2012's Prometheus. I actually saw the movie on its Friday release, but I didn't do a review on it. In fact, I wanted to make a video about the movie, but I had so many thoughts after my initial viewing that I thought I'd consider seeing the movie a second time. My first reaction was, I liked it. The first third had me on the edge of my seat. With its gory scenes and sense of suspense, I immediately thought that Ridley was the king of sci-fi horror films. The second third was interesting. Some would say boring or convoluted, but I would say interesting. In the last third, where the alien was finally produced and its origin was revealed, I thought was really cool. But I will admit some plot holes remain. Look, if you were going to ask me if I liked this movie or not, I would tell you I did. I don't hate this movie. It left me wanting more of this fascinating franchise. But it isn't perfect, and some questions in the franchise remain unanswered, and to an extent, kind of complicated. So without further ado, here's my analysis of Alien Covenant. So I think it's safe to say that I'm going to be going into full spoilers on this movie, so if you have not seen Alien Covenant yet, or Prometheus, or the first Alien movie, or even Aliens, I would strongly recommend going to see those movies upon viewing this video. But this video is going to mostly tackle on Alien Covenant, so let's get started. The film opens with the creation of David, a synthetic robot who has a conversation with Mr. Weyland, his creator, played by Guy Pearce. It is revealed that David is a robot who is capable of creativity, especially through arts like music. Through their dialogue, it is revealed that Mr. Weyland fears death, and has created David in order to one day search for mankind's creator, so that Weyland can find immortality. This has been a theme that has been explored in Prometheus, the first film in the Alien prequel series. It was in this first scene where I realized, oh shit, I probably should have seen Prometheus again before going to see this. But we'll get to that issue of this film later on. Many years later, in the year 2104, the colonization ship the Covenant is awakened by the ship's own synthetic Walter, after a sudden shockwave collides with the ship and kills many of the crew on board, including James Franco. James Franco? Wait, what the fuck? So yeah, they killed James Franco in the first 10 minutes of the movie. I was in utter disbelief because I had seen the clip from months prior to this film's release, and thinking that I was really excited to see James Franco in this movie.
I just wanted to say hey before I jet out. I'm feeling kind of queasy.
Oh, you're not feeling good?
I'm just burning up.
Ah, I see what you did there. You guys are assholes. I was in such utter disbelief that I thought, oh, maybe he just faked his death like Weyland in Prometheus. They would not kill off James Franco in the first 10 minutes. But they did. You don't fake your own death if your body is witnessed being burned alive. You don't fake your own death if your own crew releases your body out into space for a memorial service. James Franco was dead. So what about that clip that was released months prior to the movie where it showcased the entire crew in their quarters with James Franco alive and well with them? And then I thought to myself, a deleted scene. Oh my god, Fox, what did you do? Fox, how much did you cut? How much did you cut? Ridley Scott stated in recent interviews that there wasn't a whole lot cut from the original cut of Alien Covenant. But according to viewers who saw early short screenings of the film, it would appear that these showcased two prologues. One that showed what happened to the survivors of Prometheus, and the other showing the crew of the Covenant before they go into cryosleep. Both of which are not in the film, but can be found on YouTube. Whether it's the entire scenes or not has yet to be confirmed. Still, it does seem there are parts missing to this beginning. It feels like there should have been some crew interactions before the death of this captain, but there just isn't. It would have been nice if there was a little bit of foreground to this crew and how they all functioned as a unit. If the relation of everyone on the crew was acknowledged, I'm sure it would have been more impactful for James Franco to die. There should have been some type of interaction between him and Danny in order for his death to be somewhat redeemable, but it's just not there in the original cut. And that's one of the issues with this movie, is that even though the scenes aren't there, we as an audience know that something must have been cut, because there's a lot missing. So as the crew is fixing the ship's damages, they receive a signal from a planet nearby known with no name. Now just to get this out of the way, this planet is not the planet from the first Alien movie. And that's another problem I keep having with these Alien movies. As a regular movie viewer, if I'm told that this is a prequel to the original Alien, I'm going to assume that this planet is the same planet as the one from the first movie. This was my same thought process when I saw Prometheus back in 2012. But they're not. They're totally different planets. Now, this isn't the filmmakers or the writers' fault. It's our fault as the audience to keep assuming that this is planet LV-426. That's another reason why some audience members keep having mixed reactions to these prequels, is that they keep thinking these movies will suddenly end where Aliens begins on LV-426. But we just have to be patient for the other prequel films to come. So after hearing what appears to be a human voice singing a song from the signal they picked up, the captain of the ship decides to go down to this planet to see if life is sustainable and to see if they can colonize there instead. As they land, they have the proper guns and weaponry to defend themselves, and they're taking necessary safety precautions and... Wait, hold on a second. Where are their helmets? Where are their goddamn helmets? You're visiting a planet that has not shown up on your scans like ever until now, and you choose to visit this unknown planet without wearing any hazard gear. Look at the suits in Prometheus. Look at the suits in Alien. These people were professionals at their jobs and taking the necessary steps. But no, since you guys want to maybe live there, you decided not to wear any safety gear whatsoever. Oh well, maybe this one time we won't be exposed to anything out of the oh god, no you are. Shit. So as the crew is on this planet, they find a ship that belonged to one of the engineers that was in the Prometheus film. If you saw Prometheus, you saw that David and Elizabeth Shaw, a scientist from the Prometheus crew, were the only survivors of the Prometheus incident, and they took this engineer's ship in order to find the engineer's homeworld so they could ask the engineers why they created us, why they decided to kill us with a deadly weapon, and why they changed their mind. The ship being on this planet indicates that this is in fact the homeworld of the engineers. As the crew is exploring this ship, two of their crewmates are infected by black residue from nearby pores. After what seems only to be maybe, 10 minutes, this spawns what is called a neomorph. And what happens during the making of these aliens is probably my favorite portion of the movie. In fact, it's probably the best thing I've seen in terms of sci-fi horror in years. These scenes where the neomorphs are killing the crew through their birth and violent nature is definitely the highlight of this film. I could tell that through the birth of this alien was the part that really hooked in the audience while I was in the movie theater. It made us question how this alien could be without the means of a face hugger. It just came to be by just breathing in black residue from nearby pores? That's it? But, hold on a second. Let's go back to Prometheus. Oh my god, it's Prometheus! So in Prometheus, it's found out that David is a dick. And instead of not touching anything on the engineer's ship like he's ordered, it turns out that he takes one of the capsules found on the ship back to the Prometheus, takes out the same black goo also found on the unknown planet in Covenant, and secretly puts it in a drink that is consumed by Charlie Holloway, the love interest of Elizabeth Shaw. That night, Shaw and an infected Holloway have sex. The next morning, Holloway is sick and his body is somewhat deteriorating and is not let back on the ship because of his condition and is eventually burned alive. But hold on a second. If Holloway was infected by the black goo, then why didn't he spawn a neomorph within 10 minutes of infection? In fact, he was fine throughout the span of a day. I guess it was different because the black residue came from nearby plant life, I guess? I don't know. I don't know. After the crew is being attacked by two neomorphs. By the way, where did that other neomorph go? David comes out of nowhere and brings the crew to an engineer-like sanctuary. It is through this second third of the film where there is a heavy amount of exposition, and this is where a majority of the Prometheus subplot comes in. This is where I think a majority of the criticism is coming from. You see, the problem is that Prometheus was a movie that came out in 2012, 5 years ago. And even though there's a lot of themes to appreciate from that movie, it's really one of those movies, at least in my opinion, that's, it's kind of a movie you only watch once. I'm not saying it's forgettable, I'm just saying that this movie came out 5 years ago, and unless you're one of the cult followers for this film, you probably only watched it once in the theaters. Look, I'm gonna ask you to be honest with yourself. have you seen Prometheus more than once? After you maybe saw it at a movie theater in 2012, when you go over to a buddy's house, does that buddy say, "Hey, let's watch Prometheus. It's such a good movie. I could watch that all the time"? No, you really don't. Because there's other movies out there you'd probably rather watch. It's not a bad movie. It has a lot to say about finding the meaning of life. But compared to other movies, in terms of story structure and things actually happening, Prometheus is a movie that the regular moviegoer will only watch once. So maybe with your first viewing of Alien Covenant, you're having a hard time recalling certain events that happened in Prometheus. So I feel as though if you're going to see Alien Covenant, it is your obligation to watch Prometheus before you see this film. It is a sequel to Prometheus, that is for sure. However, Covenant is being marketed as an overall Alien movie. Alien Covenant. So when I go into a movie called Alien, I expect it to be an overall Alien movie. But instead, it appears that it is an overall sequel to Prometheus, which isn't a bad thing at all. If anything, after Prometheus, I wanted more questions to be answered. Maybe this movie should have been called Covenant instead, I don't know, leave out the alien. Like I said, this isn't bad that it isn't an overall Alien movie and it's a sequel to Prometheus, but I feel as though the marketing kind of flawed us a little bit because it showed us that there would be a lot of scenes with the alien in this movie, but the alien doesn't actually appear until the third act, which kind of sucks because it's Alien Covenant! See what I did there? What I do appreciate about this middle portion of the movie is the interaction between Walter and David. It's very weird and somewhat erotic, but it's a scene that can be left to interpretation, and those are my favorite kind of scenes. Here's what I think is happening here. David finds out that Walter is not capable of creativity because he's a newer model, and because of creativity implemented into David, it made him a very uncomfortable robot around people. So what David tries to do is to make Walter learn creativity through a flute. And that's one of the things that David appreciates about Walter, is that even though he isn't programmed to be creative, he can learn. There's also the scene where David kills Walter right after he kisses him, saying no one will ever love Walter as much as David will. The only thing I can really grasp from this scene is, David with his godlike complex loves Walter because he's just like him. I don't know, it's you to interpret yourself. It's being conveyed through a lot of videos. You can probably find the exact way this scene is being interpreted, but this is just my take on it. So through this middle portion of the movie, we learned quite a bit of what happened between the 10-year span of Prometheus and Covenant. It's revealed that David, an earlier model of Walter, came to the unknown planet after the events of Prometheus with Dr. Elizabeth Shaw, who then activated the weapon on board the engineer ship and killed what appears to be all of the engineers residing on the planet. It is also revealed that while conducting experiments with the black goo on this planet, David kills Elizabeth Shaw, harvests her organs, and uses certain organs to create the eggs that harvest the facehuggers. David then lures Christopher Oram to look inside the eggs when a facehugger jumps on his face and plants the first alien xenomorph inside him. This scene confirms that David created the xenomorph. Now this scene alone, I really like. I like the idea that the xenomorphs came from a creation of humans, a synthetic robot. It's very ironic and ties in very well with David's god complex. I think it was very interesting to showcase that everything that has been happening in the Alien franchise was all because of a product of human creation. However, even though I really like this idea, it does tamper with the anatomy of where the xenomorphs actually come from. It's been pretty simplistic since the reveal in Aliens as to how a xenomorph is created. An alien queen rests in a sometimes underground location laying many eggs that carry facehuggers. The humans come into contact with these eggs, where a facehugger jumps out, latching itself onto a human host. After what appears to be a day or maybe half a day, the facehugger dies and detaches itself from the host. Everything appears to be fine for a moment for the human being, until hours later, a baby xenomorph bursts out of the human's chest. And it seems that Covenant finally confirms that the alien grows at a tremendous speed. However, what Covenant does is that it kind of makes us question everything about where the aliens actually come from now. But I like to look at it from this perspective, just bear with me here. Everyone always asks what came first, the chicken or the egg. Chickens come from eggs, but eggs come from chickens. Face huggers, you get where I'm going with this? Face huggers come from eggs, but eggs come from an alien queen. So where does the original chicken, the alien queen, come from? And that answer is God. David, in terms of the creation of the xenomorph, is God. How utterly fascinating that Weyland finally got to play God yet again, but through his own creation, David. We finally have a clear understanding of David's motives. So a xenomorph is created and the crew waits outside for Tennessee to come to the rescue. Also, can we talk about the scene real quick where Tennessee finds out through Danny that his wife is dead? And he doesn't even bother to ask how or under what circumstances she died? Like, what the hell? So as they're rescued, they manage to kill the newborn xenomorph using a crane, and they head back to the Covenant. However, there's another alien! This happens all the time in all of these movies, where the surviving characters make it back to what they think is a safe ship, but it turns out that an alien followed them. It also doesn't even show where the alien comes from, which kinda sucks. You just assume it comes from the one guy who got his face burned, even though it looked like they got the face hugger off him on time. Nope, I guess there was an alien in him after all. It would have been cool to have seen the alien burst out of his chest, but I guess that's another deleted scene. So, they kill the alien through, you guessed it, using space as a fucking vacuum, and they all go back into cryosleep. However, I will admit that this ending of the movie is horrifying, and it sent chills down my spine. So, if you're not an idiot, you know at one point David killed Walter on board of the ship. He reveals to Danny that he is actually David right before she's frozen to sleep, and her cries right before she's put to sleep sold this ending. And it's really terrifying if you saw the bonus footage of David putting Shaw to sleep online, and knowing that David killed Shaw in the film. And that's the beauty of this scene. Even though it hasn't been confirmed that these characters died, you have no idea if these characters are ever going to wake up. And that is f***ing horrifying. And then it turns out that David has facehugger embryos with him, hinting that David will be using the 2,000 colonists and the saved human embryos to make many, many xenomorphs. Now, even though I really liked the ending of this film, it doesn't tie into the beginning of the original Alien movie. How does that engineer ship get onto LV-426? And since it's revealed that the facehugger eggs came specifically from David, how did the eggs get on the ship in the beginning of Alien? It would have made a little more sense if David took an engineer ship at the end of this movie, but no. He had to take the Covenant and make everything even more complicated. So my best advice from now on for anyone going to see these Alien prequel movies is to stop expecting it to 100% tie into the beginning of Alien. Just view it as a sequel to Prometheus. But with each given film afterwards, they become more and more like Alien. Hell, I wouldn't be surprised if it took 2 or 3 more films to finally end where Alien begins. As an audience, we're just gonna have to be patient. So my main thoughts on Alien Covenant. I liked it. I liked the gore, I liked the new aliens, and the new complexity added to the character David. However, this movie I feel left more unanswered questions than Prometheus did in 2012. And there was a lot of unanswered questions in Prometheus. And now, we'll most likely have to wait a little bit before those questions can be answered. Here's actually something I'd like to see in the next Alien movie. What if it turns out that David isn't the creator of the aliens? I mean, let's look back at Prometheus real quick. That's a xenomorph on the wall. So, what if David, with his godlike complex, found out that he actually didn't create the aliens in the first place? How would that affect him? Would he go insane? Only the future can tell. Guys, thank you so much for checking out my analysis of Alien Covenant. I don't usually do in-depth videos like this, but I knew I had to do it for Alien Covenant because There was just so much I had to say about this movie. I knew I wasn't going to be able to do a regular review like I do with my other movie reviews. I knew I had to go into in-depth analysis and spoilers on this movie. So if you could just click the like button, I put a lot of work into this video, I would really immensely appreciate it. And just please subscribe to Pixel Talk for more movie reviews and gaming content, and maybe I'll do a video like this again in the future, but probably not anytime soon. This was really hard to make. And comment down below what you thought of Alien Covenant. Do you share the same views as me with, Alien Covenant being really close to Prometheus and, just the Prometheus lore? I really would like to hear your thoughts. Like this video, share it, and please subscribe to Pixel Talk if you haven't yet for more movie news, gaming content, and so on. Thank you guys so much. I am Corbett Stuckey, and this is Pixel Talk.